My name is Julian Apodaca. I'm a proud father with 2 children with autism, and I am 41 years old. I wanted to share my experience as a father of 2 children with autism because I wanted other parents to know the myths and some of the things that you might experience having children with developmental delays. Before, it used to be a myth that children with autism had mental retardation. That is not the case. That is why now we use first person language and we say developmental delay or a person with autism, not having autism. Just like any other parent, you want to have a healthy birth. You want to have a healthy child. Autism was early on in the stages. Nobody knew much about it, but we knew a doctor who had a child that was diagnosed with autism. We were living in Pueblo West, Colorado at the time. And when my son turned 3, we got him diagnosed. And that's how we knew. They ran a series of tests. And the reason why we went about that is because he wasn't talking already in the stages that we thought he should be in. And also he did not like to be touched. He did not like to be held. And a lot of times it seemed like he was in his own world. So we would think that he would listen and respond or reciprocate, but there was no reciprocation. But he did understand us. He just didn't express it. And that's what we thought something might be going on. We got the referral from our doctor, his pediatrician. His son was diagnosed, and we got a referral to Denver Children's Hospital, where we talked to Dr. Michelle Epstein. She ran a series of cognitive tests to see where his developments were. We were in an observing room, and we would watch how he would interact with social and communication skills and things of that nature. And once we ran those series of tests, it was about a 4-hour day at that hospital getting that assessment done in the beginning. I'm sure now it's more different, but yes, that's how we found out that there was some developmental delay in his cognitive development, and we got the diagnosis of autism, not Asperger's, but autism. My children now are 20 years old. That was my 3-year-old at the time that got diagnosed first, and then later on we had another son who was 17, who was 3 years younger, who also got diagnosed at 3 years old. And the challenges come with that is they're both growing boys. They're both going through puberty and teen ages. And also my oldest son's a young adult. But the typical day is, for the most part, they are homebodies. They really don't like to go into society too much, but they have their own kind of social life. A lot of it is with technology, and a lot of it is in virtual communities. And my youngest, he likes to get on YouTube, so he does a lot of the audio-visual learning. He uses accessibility features, so he's really in tune with how to express himself. Sometimes it just doesn't come out with language or verbally. And so a lot of times they're at home and they'll ask for things. They do know how to ask for food and things like that. They have some limitations with their cooking, so we have to be there to make sure there's some prompting going on, so that way there's safety concerns. So we have to make sure that they're using things correctly. And also, if there is any danger, like if, let's say, the microwave, something caught on fire, that was also an early telltale sign of children with Asperger's or autism, because they don't have any fear of anything. Like if a stranger came up to them, they wouldn't know the difference. They would just stare. Or if there was inherent or imminent danger, they probably wouldn't know that that danger was around them. So those are another telltale sign. But now as they're older, they know more awareness about their surroundings, but still they have challenges like social cues, how to interact with people. And so a lot of time we spend home making phone calls and communicating for them, or being advocates with professionals to get their appointments met. So they're always staying on their appointments, and we have to do all the legwork as parents. And we are a 2-parent home, and so that's how it is. And we ride a tight ship. But like I said, they're not really acclimated to go out in society as much, to really go engage in like social play or go to birthday parties. They're really much homebodies, but they're comfortable in their element. A lot of children with Asperger's, because they are limited with certain forms of language and communication, they find other ways to excel. And like I said, I touched on it a little bit. I told you education was a valuable asset for them, because it's one way, another format for them to express themselves. Whether through listening to certain music, like my 17-year-old, he will listen to different types of genres of music. So that tells me what mood he's in based upon what he's playing. If he plays on a repeat, he's really excited about something like that. My 17-year-old, compared to my 20-year-old, when my 17-year-old is excited, he does the hand flapping. That's traditional. That's what you see in autistic children. And that's them expressing that they're happy with something. Or if they're frustrated, or they're not feeling like they're being heard when they're trying to express something to you and their language of limitation, then they have what you call those outbursts, and you'll see them uttering things out loud. You may not understand that, but that's telling you that they're frustrated or something is off. Or it could be that the lights in the room are too bright, or they're LED, and there's a sensory override going on. So my 7-year-old has sensory dysfunctions and anxiety on top of the Asperger diagnosis. So all those things are very relevant, and they come out more when they're in new environments, social settings, or anything of that sort. They're individuals with feelings and emotions just like all of us. So they're not mentally retarded or incapacitated. Actually, they're very smart. They pick up on all their senses. They use every sense. So when you're talking to them, they're hearing everything you say. They may not respond, but they know exactly what you're saying. They also pick up on body language, the tension, the energy in the room. If it's heightened, they can feel all those things. So if you're talking about them, make sure you give them the same respect as if you and I were talking, because they hear everything. So don't think they're not listening. They're tuned in very much. Talking to them in a calm voice. You don't need to yell. They hear you just fine. Sometimes pressure on their bodies is comfort for them because of the sensory dysfunction. Sometimes I'll place my hands on their chest. Sometimes it would be like this. This is for my 17-year-old. But for my 20-year-old who's more high functioning, it's just talking to them in a mild manner and explaining to them, what it is you're trying to articulate, and then he will respond in return. So it's just taking the time like you're having a normal conversation with all the loudness and emotions, because once those happen, it can change their body language and the structure of the conversation that you're trying to have. So just talking to them like normal day people in a soft tone and bringing them down to that calm level really has better outcomes, I found out. Me and my wife did not have a lot of us time, so exercising that self-care for us so we can go out and do things, put a really damper on the relationship. Also in the beginning, there was blaming going on as to why they were diagnosed, what could have caused that, environmental factors, medications during pregnancy. We considered all of that. As young parents, we went through all that, and it was cats and dogs sometimes, but at the end it was rewarding. But like I said, earlier on, nobody knew about it, but those were the challenges that came with it. There was a lot of myths and not a lot of education. Now we knew that our self-care should have been at the top of our priority list, having children, not just in general, but with autism. My 20-year-old was able to go to school like any other kid. Yeah, he had accommodations, but he also was able to get his high school diploma, and he started his first semester last year at community college. That was one of the rewarding things, was to be able to raise my son in a supportive environment where he can be himself and he can find his own niche in the world. And that was probably the most rewarding. The other thing is just looking at all their little milestones. They have typical milestones like any other children their age, but sometimes they're late bloomers. Sometimes it'll come when it comes. They didn't start potty training my 20-year-old till he was 6 years old, didn't start talking till he was 7 years old. My 17-year-old doesn't talk as much now, but he can tell you when he's sick. He can tell you if he's hungry. He can tell you if he needs to go to the doctor. He can say all those things, and he can freehand draw custom creatures out of nowhere. That's how talented he is. And he doesn't trace. He doesn't erase. He just straight shot. He has that visual imagination. Those are rewarding, just seeing all these talents and things come out of him that I normally don't get to see. So those are the most rewarding and enjoyable. And it just made me a better father. So I'm really proud to be a father of those two children. I wouldn't change it for anything. It has taught me to count my blessings, to be patient, to be more patient, be more kind, be more compassionate. Also taught me to sit and just listen sometimes instead of always trying to find the answer. I found that having ISP, an individual service plan, or a 504 plan for their educational goals, especially if they're in a public setting, is the most helpful. It not only talks about what your child's specific needs are, but it also gives them certain accommodations. So if they're in a school setting with regular kids because you want to be inclusive, then you put that in the ISP or the 504. So that way the teachers and the professionals have to honor that educational plan. And then what happens is they set goals. So that way they know how they're progressing or not progressing. So you have more insight to how their educational goals are going. So always have those plans and services, and always, when you can, be involved in all of that, because that's the only way you're going to know if they're getting the appropriate education. A lot of times we just stay home because it's more comfortable. But like for my 7-year-old, he doesn't like loud noises. So when there's fireworks on 4th of July, he stays in home. When there's a lot of like a loud music venue playing, we put earphones on. So we make certain accommodations to make him comfortable. We can't always get it right, but we could do certain things. If your child's young and he's a runner, guess what? Get something that's strapped to him. Put apps on their phone. Get a tracker. Whatever you feel you need to be safe. You're not being a bad parent because you're trying new options with your children. You're still supposed to express everything. My children ran off. They got on a trampoline, jumped over a fence. Your children might not like to wear clothes. People will look, why are your children not wearing clothes? Are you neglecting them? No, sometimes the textures are too much and they just like to wear their bottoms. That is a real thing. So like I said, all your children are going to be unique and different in their own way. But the more you accommodate them and show them the right way, or at least the best way for them to have better outcomes, the more better off they will be as individuals. And they're your kids. So you're stuck with them. So love them to death. I also believe in having natural family environments. Sometimes having a 2-parent home helps. Sometimes it's not. When there's a lot of fighting, sometimes you have to consider those things. But for the most part, the more support they have in the home and outside in their day-to-day functions, the more successful or better outcomes they will have. A lot of times when you're in a school setting and they're young, they always want to medicate. And the thing with that is sometimes your child may need that. Sometimes that is a required thing in an ISP or a 504. But it's not always necessary. I don't always vouch for medication. Sometimes it's just finding what your children's moods and swings are and their outbursts or how they express themselves. And then sometimes if you address that, you don't need the medication. But sometimes if they're a little too much, but that's why you put them in placement, you get them assessed, so that way they have a better outcome, so that way they're not getting behind in their education or any other developmental goals they may have within that. It's better to have extra support than no support. Siblings play a great role in having children with autism. They have a stepbrother who is 28, 29 now, and he used to do all the respite and rehabilitation with them when he got of age. When he was 18, he was able to take on the role and take them out to the store, social settings, or to help them to better use the shower or to change themselves. All those life skills that most of us would teach them as young up into their adulthood is the same thing we're doing, but we have more added services. So having a sibling really gave them the best chance to succeed. Also by having cousins that were not on the spectrum, that were similar in age, talk to them like normal kids. That's how my 20-year-old was able to start talking at the age of 6.5, 7. And also potty training. He was able to potty train, not being a pull-up at the age of 7. So all those things are different, but those sibling roles and having those family supports and talking to them like normal kids and not just teaching them as if they had an illness is why. And siblings always play a powerful role if they do have siblings, because it's more support and more understanding and more compassion, and it gives the parents a break. Just be patient, because you'll learn plenty of that if you don't already. And also don't beat yourself up. Give yourself some grace and compassion, and always practice self-care when necessary. That's the most important thing I can tell you. Go to a movie night. Even if the movie sucks, just get out of the house. Take the break. It's so worth it. You're worth it. And your children will love you better for it. And one thing about children with autism, they will never turn their backs on you. You got children for life. They will be attached to you. They might never even leave the coop, but when they do, you should be happy you did a good job. And even if they don't, like I said, they love you forever and always, and they're your children and you're stuck with them. So you might as well get used to knowing a little bit more about them. Get off that cell phone, get off the job, and get to know your children better. They're going to be okay. You're going to be all right. If I could go back, what would I tell my younger self? I would tell my younger self, quit trying to be mad at the world, figuring out why your kids have autism, Asperger, why this happened. Sometimes we just don't know. And sometimes we may never know. But just know they're beautiful children. They're blessings like anything else. And you don't need to beat yourself up over it. I surely did. So lucky I'm still able to have my family together. We're a unique family, tight knit, but because we did all those things right, all the stuff, all the fighting, all the blaming, it was all worth it. For a lot of women that are experienced birthing, worried about if their children are going to come out right. You hear about cell therapy, all those things. You don't have to worry about it. Or if you're a smoker, all those things. We tried to find everything under the sun as to why this happened to our children. And we still don't know, but we know there's more education. And the thing is, don't waste your time trying to figure out why, and just do more about the doing. Live your life, love your family, and make the best choices like you would for any other of your children. I just want you to know, no matter where you're at in your diagnoses, that if your intention is to do the best for your child, you're already doing it already. The best part is being there for them through all their moments. No matter what it is, you're going to have the ups and downs like any other children, and you'll be surprised how much they sign with just a little understanding, love, compassion, and support. There's plenty of support groups now. Before there wasn't. It was a handful. Now you have all kinds of options. There's things online. There's telemed. There's so many ways to get care for your child and get connected. The thing is, you cannot be afraid to or feel like people are judging you. The myths are over. They're healthy kids. They're just late bloomers. They're trying to find their way. Sometimes they'll surprise you with what they have to say or what things they express. But like I said, when it does, you'll be happy to know, and then you won't feel so alone in your struggle, because they are not their diagnoses. It doesn't matter what their diagnosis is. We all want to do right by our kids. We want to make sure they have the best care. We want to make sure they go to the best schools, eat the best things, be able to have enriching social lives. We want to have all these plans for our children before they even are sent to us in the time. But the main thing to understand is they're just children. They're going through things, and they will be adults one day. And it's a scary feeling like anything else, but you have to meet them where they are at. You can't put this one against that one. They're all going to have their own personalities. They're all going to have their own pet peeves, their likes, dislikes, what they love, what they don't like. But you just got to let them find their own way. And the most important thing, self-care for the parents. Give the support where you need it. Go to a support group. Go have a ladies' day out. Have movie night if you're a couple. All those things are definitely need to happen, because you can burn yourself out emotionally, and the kids feel it. They know something's wrong. They know it might be coming from them or something they did, but they're not doing it on purpose. So you need to make time for yourself. Self-care is the utmost important. And just remember, they have struggles. All families do. So your challenges are just a little unique and different, but you can figure it out just like anybody else. And it doesn't have to be the same as any other household. You have a unique household, and you should honor it. My name is Julian Apodaca. I'm 41 years old. I'm a survivor of life.